With the help of Hashem, today we're going to talk about a certain topic. We're not going to learn from the Zohar. We're going to talk about a very hot topic. This topic is practical Kabbalah. I'm going to try to explain this topic, things inside of it, and we have certain reasons why we're talking about this topic. You have to understand that when you say practical Kabbalah, Kabbalah Maasit, that it means from action. People think that in general it means that through Kabbalah Maasit, through practical Kabbalah, you do things with it. You could do magic. And this isn't what it means. It really comes from the word Asiya, from the world of Asiya. There are four worlds: Atzilus, Bria, Yitzir, and Asiya. Atzilus is godliness, and the rest are separate creations. Now, in the world of Bria, most of it's good, and there's a minor part that's bad. In Yitzira, it's about equal, and in Asiya, most of the world of Asiya is bad. And Kabbalah Maasit means that you're using angels that are actually in ha-Olam Asiya, where most of them are bad, and part of them is good. And before I start explaining, I want to introduce a certain introduction. Now, in Shaarei Kedushah, it explains all the different levels of the connection that Hashem has to clients, or the different types of connections that we have to Him. The highest level, the highest connection, is the connection through prophecy. Each prophecy is different between the prophecy that each prophet gets is different between each prophet. And it depends on how much it's dressed up. There's some prophecy that comes out from Olam Atzilus, and comes out through Netzach and Hod of Olam Atzilus, since Netzach and Hod are the legs, so to speak, and legs bring things from one place to the next, bring a person from one place to the next. So too in prophecy is about bringing Shefa, bringing things from the upper world down to the Navi, which is the lower world, and that's why it goes through Netzach and Hod, which are the two legs. Now the two Prokim of Netzach and Hod by Atik we saw, which is the highest Prokim of Netzach and Hod, two parts of Netzach and Hod. So there are three parts of this Netzach and Hod. Each Netzach has two parts, and Hod has three parts. And Arich dresses up on two of them, the two upper parts of Netzach and Hod. And the two lower part, third lowest part of Netzach and Hod, they're called Dade Behema, the udders of an animal, and the Patzufim, they go down. And when they're created, they go down and they nurse, so to speak, from these two prakim of Netzach and Hod, and they go from there up. So it comes out that Netzach and Hod have a double function. They have the purpose of bringing from one level to the next, the ability of moving from a higher place to a lower place, and also they can lift up the broken pieces that fell down to the lower worlds. This is the purpose of a prophecy, to bring things from a shefa from upper world to lower world, and also to be able to fix this world. The prophet is supposed to teach the Jewish people how they're supposed to fix what they need to fix. Now, in comparison to all the prophets, compared to Moshe Rabbeinu, there's a tremendous difference. Because Moshe Rabbeinu, he actually prophesied from a higher level than Netzach and Hod, and his prophecy he got it when he was totally awake, and not through a dream. He didn't fall down when he prophesied. He was able to stand up. And he also prophesied with the lashon of Zeh. He said, "This is what Hashem says," as opposed to the other prophets who use the word of Ko. So says Hashem, which is a less exacting type of term than to say this is what Hashem says. But also by Moshe Rabbeinu it says he did not see Hashem. He saw Hashem's back, but he did not see Hashem's actual face. So even Moshe Rabbeinu, he wasn't able to actually receive the world of Atzilus directly. He had to receive it through the world, the light of Atzilus dressed up inside the light of Bria, and he received it through Bria. And now the main difference between the prophets is the amount that the prophecy has to dress up before it reaches the prophet. The lowest type of prophecy was Yechezkel's prophecy, but he saw the highest things. He saw the vision of the Merkava. There was even a question whether they should leave it in the Sefer Kodesh, inside the books of the Torah. And the rabbis went up into an attic and they brought up a lot of oil to eat and to live off of, until they spoke about every detail until they decided to keep it inside the Sefer Kodesh. And they explained why Yechezkel prophesied such a high prophecy, even though he was a low prophet, since the Klal Yisrael was going into the Golus. They gave him a high prophecy. And the rabbis explained that he was already prepared for this type of prophecy from the day of from the 6 days of creation. Now every prophecy prophesied through the light dressing up for him into the different types of amounts of dressing up of these slapshus. Now, the more these slapshus there are, the more imagination is attached to it. Yechezkel had more imagination, metaphors that he used to explain the topic. And not always does the prophet understand what he's saying. He sees, but he doesn't understand exactly what he's saying. And sometimes in later generations they understand what he was referring to. But Moshe Rabbeinu did not see things with metaphors and with hints. He saw exactly what he was supposed to be seeing, except for 3 places where Moshe Rabbeinu himself needed a certain type of vision. Where the Rosh Tevas of these 3 places are Moshe. Mem is a menorah. He didn't understand how the menorah could be made with 1 block of gold. So Hashem showed him the menorah. And the Shin is a shekel of Kodesh. And Hey is a Chodesh. He didn't understand the Chodesh. Hashem showed him the moon. All these different 3 things Hashem showed him. He actually showed him. And when he actually had to show him, since he needed a vision, it was lower than the other, more intellectual, higher type of understanding. The ones with visions had to be dressed up in dimyon, in imagination. And the more purified the prophecy's imagination is, the more purified his prophecy is. Now, the more purified a person's imagination is, the more attached he is to the Klal Yisrael, and the less himself is attached to his imagination, the closer his prophecy is going to be. A person can't come to total nullification, though, because if he comes to total, which even though this is what's necessary for real prophecy, but if he were to come to total nullification, he would be dead. So the rabbis explain that once they grabbed on to the Yetzer Hara of Avodah, they nullified it, and the Yetzer Hara came out actually of the Beis HaMikdash. And once they nullified the desire for Yetzer Hara, also the prophecy stopped, because their prophecy and the Avodah were paralleled. But they understood through the Ruach HaKodesh that it was better to cancel out the prophecy and the desire for Avodah Zarah. With all the prophets, the Jews were still not doing tshuva, because the Avodah Zarah was stronger than the power of the prophecy. Even though we had prophecy and there was Beis HaMikdash, most of the time that the Beis HaMikdash was around, people were serving Avodah Zarah, and the Jewish people were divided into 2: Yehuda with a Beis HaMikdash, and the rest of the 10 Shvatim were serving idols on hills. In the morning and the night, the Yetzer Hara would bring out prophecy of false prophecy, and they prophesied opposite of what the prophecies were saying. The prophecies of Kedusha were saying. You think a prophet just goes to sleep and he thinks, oh, what am I going to say tomorrow? He just makes up something, and he thinks politically it'll be better for me to say this, and therefore he decides to say a certain prophecy based on what he thinks will be better. It's not true. Really, he used to actually get prophecy, but the only problem is the prophecy would come mixed up very much with his own personal pipeline, and it would confuse him, it would mess him up. So it comes out here that the Klal Yisrael preferred to get rid of the desire for Yetzer Hara and to accept the fact there won't be any more prophecy. And what's left over? Without Nevuah, we have still Ruach HaKodesh. And what is Ruach HaKodesh? Ruach HaKodesh is drawing light from the world of Yetzirah alone. Now, Atzilus and Bria, that in them the prophecy started. There's Atzilus, Bria. Moshe Rabbeinu received from Atzilus dressed up in Bria, and Bria also has many different Partsufim, and each one of the Partsufim has its own level. Now there's also Yetzirah. Now Atzilus dresses up inside Bria, and now that also dresses up inside of Yetzirah. Now from the moment the prophecy stopped, all the Shefa only came down from Yetzirah and down, through Asiyah, to get down to the world. And that was Ruach HaKodesh. That is Ruach HaKodesh. Aside from the fact they had Ruach HaKodesh, now this Yetzirah is the world of the Malach called Matat. Someone who remembers with the Maisa with Rabbi Kiva and his friends that went up into the Pardes, one of them, which was Acher, he went off the derech. And why did he go off the derech? Because he went up into Shemaim and he saw that Matat, the angel Matat, was sitting in the throne of Hashem. So he decided to be kofar. He decided that it wasn't, Hashem doesn't rule the world. Chas v'shalom. So this whole concept of Ruach HaKodesh came out all of the the idea of using the Heichalos, which is called Shimushei Heichalos. And this is what was spoken by Rabbi Kiva and Rabbi Yochanan ben Akana, that in those generations, the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, but still there were some things that were left over, and one of the things that were left over was the ashes of the Parah Aduma. And even a drop of these ashes can purify a person. So they had these ashes that were left over, and it could last for a long time. But a number of generations later, there was no more ashes of the Parah Aduma. Parah Aduma is able to purify from the highest level of Tumah of Mace. There is no way in the whole world, no matter how many times you tovel in a mikveh, to purify from Tumas Mace. You could turn around 100 times, you could do all sorts of sigufim, nothing will help you. A person will always stay with this Tumas Mace. The Tumah that he gets from a dead people in the basic Kvaros, if he ever goes to basic Kvaros, or if he ever goes on top of any other grave, any other dead person. Today we're all Tamim Mace. We're all the Tumah of Mace. And also in the Mishnah it speaks about a Zav not eating with a Zava, because maybe he will become Tameh from the Zava. Now, even though they all had Tumas Mace, they were all on very, very high level of Tumah. But even though they have Tumas Mace, they still should not add upon themselves all sorts of extra Tumah. That's why everything that we're trying to do to purify ourselves, everything we try to do is to purify ourselves from other aspects of Tumah. Because even though we do have Tumas Mace, a person who shouldn't add all sorts of Tumah upon ourselves. Like a person who owes $20,000, should he come to add another 5 or another 10? We shouldn't add upon ourselves all sorts of Tumah, even though we can't get rid of the original Tumas Mace. So it comes out from here that they had a Shefa from the Olam HaYetzirah, and they got Ruach HaKodesh from there. And from there, they would go they would go up into the Pardes through this. This is what Rabbi Akiva did with his Chavirim. And Rabbi Akiva taught him, learned himself and taught his friends how to go into the gates of Yetzirah and how to pass over the gatekeepers to tell them exactly what they need to tell in order to pass into these gates of Yetzirah, and they were able to go from one gate to the next. They had to say all sorts of shemos, they had to say all sorts of names. They said that when you get up to the gates of water, don't say, when you get up to the gates, don't say Maim. The gates of stone, don't say Maim. All sorts of special things that they have to say or don't say. When they get to a certain type of gate, they have to say a certain thing, and if they don't say that, they'll be thrown from all their levels. All sorts of different systems they have in Olam Yetzirah. They tell about Acher, that once what happened, they threw him down from all his levels. When he came down to this world, came down here, he did the opposite of doing tshuva, when like a person could do tshuva and go back up to very high levels. So he actually fell down to the lowest level from a very high level. It's very very dangerous. Like when a person comes above water, when a person's underneath the water, if he goes up very quickly, so the oxygen in his blood comes out, and it's very dangerous. So to here, going from one level to the level is very, very dangerous. Now, the Olam Yetzirah is called Pardes, and this concept is called Shimushei HaHeichalos. Johanan Alemanno wrote a sefer about this, and this is all about the level of Yetzirah. We have all sorts of stories about this idea about neshamas going up into Yetzirah, and the body is left like dead. Sometimes, in order to return, they have to do all sorts of things. In order to bring him down, they put underwear from a woman that had a stain that was a stain of a type of nida that was actually found kosher. But when they put on him, he came back down into his body, came back down from the world of Yetzirah. Now, later on, in the generations of Abai and Rava, in the Gemara, they didn't have any more Efer of Paraduma. And from that generation on, they did not go into the Pardes. They weren't able to go up into the Pardes. But what they were able to use was they were able to go into the world of Asiyah. When Atzilus was dressed up in Bria, and Bria in Yetzirah, and Yetzirah inside of Asiyah. Now, the world of Asiyah, most of it is evil, and it's only part of it, a smaller part, is good. Yetzirah is like half-half, and Bria is mostly good and partially evil. And Atzilus is completely good. There is no bad in it. Now, since the angels in Asiyah, most of them are bad, even though they really do want to help and they want to tell people things, they themselves don't really know. And since they themselves don't really know, they can actually confuse a person and trick a person on purpose, or maybe not on purpose, depending on how good they are, how bad they are, it depends on what type of angel they are. In any case, Rav Chayyim Vital says that the idea of the secret of Kabbalah Maasit, it's impossible, you're not allowed to use it, since when you use it, a person will for sure attach himself also to some evil, and he thinks that he's doing good, but really he's doing bad. And even if he does get something that's true, it'll be mixed up with sheker. And if he does receive some type of perception, holy perception, it's still mixed with evil. Now, there's mixtures of sheker that's mixed up inside truth, and this could even bring to a person's death. And he says, since we don't have the paraduma, and there's so much tuma that's attaching to a person, we cannot use Kabbalah Maasit anymore. Kabbalah Maasit. since the evil will attach himself to a person who's going to use these methods. Aside from the fact that he's being metame his nefesh, he'll be punished in Gehenna, and also in this world he'll get all sorts of problems. He'll be poor, him or his children, or he'll go off the derech, him or his children, chas v'shalom. Something that happened in the Tzafon, up north in Israel. There was a certain person who wasn't 100%. He was bothering in the class. At the end of the class, I asked him who he was, and he told me he's the son of a certain person, and I know this person, and he practices Kabbalah Maasit, practical Kabbalah. And you see, the next generation was just something went off the end. You could see that if a person deals with this, not only do they use it to do bad things and they hurt other people, do all sorts of, or to get money, or they do it for pleasure, which is what's called using the crown for all sorts of other purposes. But even people that are trying to use other people, trying to help other people with Kabbalah Maasit, the person can never. Now, people that deal with these types of things, then it dirties them. A few times I went to and I saw people like this, people doing this, and I saw people that deal with these things. You could feel it. You could feel it, and you could see in the generation after them all sorts of problems that they have, serious problems. Also, it comes opposite. You could see people with all sorts of problems, and you search and you look inside and you see it's not from them, and you see a whole bunch of the family is suffering, and you look and you see it must be a problem that comes from the generation before, and you look at the generation before and you see people, the previous generation dealt with this topic. Even holy people, they dealt with these types of topics and they got damaged, either them or their children, as Rav Hayyim Vital explained. And it says here, and also we have a proof from Rav Yosef de Lorina and Rav Moshe Armoni. They used Kabbalah Maasit and they were destroyed from this world, because there's no good in all Masiyah without evil, and they force angels to do what they want until they lose their whole neshama. Aside from this, also the way of making these shvuas and causing angels to do things also is lost from Rishonim. Meaning, he gives more reasons here. What a person needs to do in order to do Kabbalah Maasit is to be mashpia malachim, to make shvua on them. And Hashem created the angels in a way that if a person comes and makes a shvua on an angel, then they have to listen. The angel has to listen and do what the man wants. So they say that they were made from the actual creation to listen to a person. So when you say the name of a malach, the malach gets scared and he's afraid that maybe you're going to make a shvua on him and make him do what you want. And therefore we're not to ever say names of malachim, and that's why we always use short versions of the name of angels. We say Garcia instead of Garcia with the kel at the end. And the Samach Mem, we never say his name, his full name. We don't want that he should be scared and that he should be wondering and look at who is calling him. And there are some rabbis that don't learn Kabbalah and they don't pay any attention. They say all the names of angels. I heard on the radio one person was saying all sorts of names of angels, and so I heard him on the radio and I turned off the radio. And Arizal said to a person that he once said, the other person once said the name of the female angel of the Samach Mem, and he has to do tshuva for it. We don't say any names except for, unless the name of the angel is like Michal or Gabriel, which is the names of also people have that name. But the other types of angels, we have to be very careful not to say their names. We give a shortened version, so the angels shouldn't look at you to see who's calling. Now, in Kabbalah Maasit, a person actually makes a shvur with them, with all sorts of different sayings, in order to force the malach to do what the person wants. Now, the malach gets upset. He says, "What is it that he gets upset? What is it that this person is not pure in all sorts of different things? The angels see everything. How does he have the audacity to cause me, to make me to do something I don't want to do?" And then they mess him up, they ruin him, they hurt him. So in the beginning, what do? They give a person a lot of power, and they give him a lot of power until he gets strong, and they kill him, they hurt him. The second thing that they do, we should know that a lot of Kabbalah Maasit from like Rezia Melech and Bris Menucha and the other ones, you should know that in general, the ways of making these shvuos of the malachim, the Rishonim hid it inside. They hid it in a certain way, and it really has to be with a certain type of purity, in a certain type of way, with a certain type of action, and with certain types of names of shemus. And what the Rishonim did was they mixed it all up, and they messed it all up so a person would not understand. So not any person off the street who has all sorts of problems will come in and start using these methods in the right way. So they make it so they mix it all up so they won't know what to do. You won't know how to do it properly. Sometimes people go to all sorts of different witches and witchcraft, and it's very hard to get out of it. Comes out from here is that a lot of things that they were already mistaken is that the first thing is that they hid the secrets of how to actually do this in the Rishonim, and the form of the Rishonim, like Bris Menucha. And also the Shemus themselves, they mixed them up. Now, practically, through checking, you could see in many places that the folklore that the people use, and especially when we're referring to healing all sorts of sicknesses, that it's a mixture of all sorts of different cultures and different religions. This folklore that people use, all these chanting and words to try to heal things, mixed up with all sorts of good and bad things. Somebody once asked me if a chamsa has a source in Judaism. I don't know of a source, but could be that is an example of something that was picked up from the people that lived amongst the Arabs. They picked up all sorts of type of folklore, a type of things from the Arabs, and it goes both ways also. In the Shemus, we found all sorts of things that are not Jewish, not sourced in Jewish places. We see all sorts of like Arab teachers or Arab religious people also putting all sorts of different things inside this folklore, which gets mixed up amongst the Jews, like tying people down and hurting all sorts of other people. And this is part of their part of the folklore, part of how to get things going. But the Torah is darkei noam. It's pleasant. It's a nice thing. It's not a bad thing. And the first thing a person has to know that the one who's causing him pain, the one who's causing a person pain, is Hashem, and even the Samach Mem is a shaliach of Hashem. So what comes out from here is that a person has to fix the root of the problem, and the root of the problem is really to be able to receive the pain through pleasure, and to take the pain and to turn it to pleasure through using shvuas and using names of Hashem. So it's as if you're not accepting the din of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the judgment of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What you can do, kosher ways, is to daven and to daven to Hashem to try that He should change his ksivim. But if you're going to try to make shvuas in order to change the world, it's like you're putting yourself at the center of the world, and everyone else has to listen to you. And this is a backwards perception. The Torah does not look at the world like that. The first thing a person has to learn is to be very, very simple and straightforward when he starts dealing with these types of things, practical Kabbalah. Why is practical Kabbalah in existence at all? Because the great rabbis of the world are allowed to use practical Kabbalah when all of the Jewish people are at stake, or large amounts of Jewish people are at stake. And even then, the rabbi or the great person will be damaged, chas v'shalom, but it might be necessary if he's willing to be most ha-Nefesh, like the Maharal who made a golem. And like there was another story about a person who was killed, and the non-Jews blamed the Jews. So the Rav came and he brought a kamiyah, and he put it inside the mouth of the dead person. The dead person got up and pointed at the one who killed him and fell back down dead. Now this rabbi afterwards did all sorts of sigufim and fasts, and he got even sick because of what he did, because he wrote this kamiyah. Even though he was doing it to save Klal Yisrael, where there's certainly, in saving Klal Yisrael, there's a kula. A person could be more lenient. But now that we don't have the paraduma, any time a person uses it, he will be damaged. You should know this tremendous Yetzer Hara. When a person knows how to do all sorts of things, and he knows how to rule over other people and go into their dreams and tell them what to do, and rule over all sorts of their feelings. So it's very hard, and there's a tremendous Yetzer Hara not to do this. Once his neighbor starts upsetting him, he says, "Why don't I just use some Kabbalah Maasit, go into his head a little bit, and then we'll be finished." Now, in the Jewish people, we learn to hate not the sinners, but the sins. We hope that the sinners are Choser B'Tshuva, instead of trying to destroy him through all sorts of unnatural ways.